Hi, everybody. This is Clarinda with Astro Energetic Healing. So, I want to talk a little bit today about human design. I was guided to human design, and ever since I've been introduced to it, I have not looked back. It has been one of the most powerful transformation tools that I have ever come in contact with. And I've tried a lot. So, just a little bit of background information on me. I have worked as a registered nurse for the last 13 years, and then in 2011, I had what I would consider to be a wake up experience, an awakening, and it happened out of nowhere. It was completely spontaneous, but it was this pivotal point in my life where everything started to change. I felt like I was dying, but I found that there was actually nothing physically wrong with me, and this is what started my awareness of this whole world of energy and how sensitive I was to feeling energy. And at the time, I just didn't know that I was not being able to stay grounded. So anyway, I started really getting into all things metaphysical, wanting to learn more about how things worked. I got into astrology and also energy healing. So I've really been doing all of those two things for the last 8 years. But in 2019, I was introduced to human design and I was spiritually guided to it. I have no doubt that it was the right time for me to dive into it. I believe everything happens in the divine right time. So I just went all into human design because it started putting pieces together that had never been connected for me. It made so much sense. And not only was I seeing it make sense in my life, but it was making sense for everybody else that I started to talk to about it. And the insights that were gained from it were ridiculously crazy. Nobody could believe it. Like, seriously? And a lot of people hadn't heard about it, and so I would start telling them about it, and the interest has just grown to know more about it. And it's really a passion of mine. I really want to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity to learn about it that is interested in learning about human design. So today, I just want to share some basic info about human design. And then if you have questions afterwards, you can contact me, reach out, and we can go from there. But this is something I do plan on doing, kind of like small lessons just to give you an idea of what human design is, how to find out about your design type, and what that really means for you. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you for people that are visual. I am both a visual and auditory person, so I do both. So this is just an introduction to human design, and they call it the new science of astrology. It is definitely an Aquarian type of tool. And when I was introduced to it, that's the first thing I said. It's like, this is definitely like one of those things that I feel like is garnering in that Aquarian type, that Aquarian energy, the Aquarian age. And it's really, really powerful tool to help you know learn who you are and discover yourself. And of course, knowing yourself is key. So it is a simple, practical, transformational assessment tool. It's really not hard to comprehend, but yet it's complex at the same time. It's a synthesis, too, of Eastern and Western astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah, the I Ching, and quantum physics. So it's taking all of these ancient sciences and it kind of puts them all together. And so the interesting thing about it is traditional human design was actually delivered, I'll say, to Ra Uru in 1987. He had an experience with an entity, I guess, that he called the Voice. So the same year, there was a supernova, which is an implosion of a star. And with that, there were a lot of neutrinos that were released into the cosmos. And not only were they in the cosmos, but they, of course, affected everything in the cosmos, including us on Earth. And it was like this energy to help us awaken at the time, a shift in consciousness. So he received this information from that experience, and that was the birth of what we now see as human design. So I am affiliated and have been training with Karen Kirk Parker with the quantum alignment system. And she really, really resonated with me in the way that she approached human design. And so I really feel passionate about it, and that it the fact that it is so powerful and transformational, especially when we start to try to live our design. So, what can it do for you? What can human design do for you? It's going to definitely be able to show you a new way to see yourself. It will help you to discover your gifts and talents. And most of us have kind of an idea of some of them, but it really brings things together and brings it to the surface, and it makes things more clear. You start getting these ahas like, oh, okay, this is why this happened, and this is why I feel this way, and this is why I act this way at times. You know, it starts to put all the pieces of those puzzles together for you. It also really is really, really powerful for teaching you how to work around what we might consider our own limitations in our life. So it gives us a way to reframe and the way that we might have perceived things that have been limiting in our lives, and to actually take those energies and to be able to work with them and really align ourselves with the lesson that's meant to be gained from those limitations. Because just like with Saturn, Saturn is known as the planet of limitations and restrictions, and you know, it has a bad rep. Over time, I have really, really learned to appreciate the limitations that Saturn has put in place. Because if it were not for these limitations, then things would fall apart. So when we start looking at that energy in a different light and saying, oh, yes, these limitations are here, but these are actually opportunities for me to grow. These are lessons. We reframe that energy and it actually starts manifesting in our lives in a different way. It also will, again, help you to embrace and maximize your natural gifts and your natural talents. It helps you to understand your behavioral patterns and your habits. It helps you to understand yourself better. But not only that, it helps you to understand other people so much better, and to have compassion with yourself and to have compassion for others in what they're going through at any given time in their lives. It helps you to learn how to accept yourself for the amazing person that you are. It has been one of the most freeing things that I've ever experienced, to be okay with just being me and not having to make explanations or, you know, apologies for the way that I am, and just being able to embrace myself in my entirety, and then to be a part of a community that actually gets it. So it is a decision making tool. It's very accurate, it's very reliable. So when I say the decision making tool, that will be something that we'll talk about a little bit later on, not today, but down the road, when we talk about strategy. So when we are in alignment with our strategy, we really learn to make decisions that are in alignment with how we are designed to operate in this world. So here we have a sample of a body graph, and this is just everything open, no definition. In the body graph, there are 9 energy centers. So prior to 1781, human beings had 7 centers, the 7 chakras. Before 1781, we lived a Saturnian life cycle, which was roughly 42 years. People had very short lifespans at that time. But in 1781, Uranus was discovered. And with the discovery of Uranus, a lot of things started to change and shift in the evolution of human beings. And we had a split in our centers. And so what happened was we went from being 7-centered beings to being 9-centered beings. And the heart center actually split into what we now call the identity center and the will center. And then the solar plexus actually split into what we call the emotional solar plexus and the spleen, giving us 9 centers. According to Ra, we are what he called Homo sapiens in transitus. So we're in a transitional phase of humanity. So there's 9 energy centers: the head center, the ajna, the throat, the G center, the identity center, the heart or will center, the sacral center, the solar plexus, the spleen, and the root. So our head center is where we get inspiration, where the ideas come from. In the human design body graph, there are 2 pressure centers. one being at the top and the other one being at the bottom. So the head center is a mental pressure center, and it feels pressure to know things or to try to figure things out, to answer questions. The Ajna Center is where we have our concrete thinking, our data analysis and processing, and our storage. Also, here, there is a tendency to want to try to figure things out. The throat center, super important when it comes to determining what a person's design is going to be, is all about communication and manifestation. The identity center, the G center, is about our self-identity, our love and direction. This is one of my favorite centers. I really do love the center. And in my chart, I have it open. So the more you learn about human design, the more you learn that this center has so much to do with location, especially when it's open. Your environment is going to play such a huge part in your health and how you feel and how you behave. And so I look back and reflect on my life, and I recognize how vital it was that I was in the right place. Even prior to me finding human design, I had been working with energy for a while, and I knew, like, if a place was not right for me, I would feel it energetically. My energy would be off, and I sometimes I couldn't explain why. Even if I was around people that I just wasn't connecting with or clicking with, I'd be like, something, their vibe is off. Our vibe is off. We're just not vibrating together. So I need to pardon myself from this situation because it's not working for me. And it would actually, my when my energy is not working, it causes physical discomfort. So it is like, get out of there. You got to move. So anyway, the G center, about self-identity, love and direction. The heart center. The heart center is the heart, and it affects the literal heart, our physical heart also. And it's also called the ego and will center. So money, ego, and willpower live in this center. The sacral center, this is also really important in determining type. People that have it defined are going to be a generator type profile, whereas people that don't will either be a projector, manifester, or a reflector. So this is where we have workforce and life force energy. When the sacral center is defined, these people have sustainable energy that they can, so that they can carry out work and their life force activities. And it has a lot to do with sex, sexuality, nurturing and caring in all its ways, all its forms. 70% of the population have this center defined. The solar plexus center, also called the emotional solar plexus, is where our emotions and our creativity reside. And this is a really interesting center, because it has different types of emotional waves. So learning about your wave, if you have definition here, is going to be important. If you have definition here, it is automatically going to become your authority. So it plays a very important part. And it also has a lot to do with the changes in humanity that are coming up in the near future. So the spleen center, the spleen is where we have intuition, health, survival, and time. This is also a fear center. So each gate has different types of fears that it is kind of responsible for. It's a really interesting place to look at and study to see, hey, when you reflect back and see, I've had a fear of this and I have this issue, it's been hard for me to move forward with. A lot of times it's because of something going on, a fear that's based in the spleen center. The root center. This is the other pressure center that I was telling you about in the beginning. So this is an adrenal pressure, and it's a stress center. It is a motor. There's 4 motors in human design. And this motor, unlike the sacral motor, which is consistent, the other motors are the will center and the emotional solar plexus. This one pulses on and off. None of the other motors, other than the sacral center, are sustainable energies. So the sacral center is consistent and reliable for the most part. But this one pulses off and on, and it can create an adrenal pressure, a pressure to do, to get things done. So, especially when it's open, people that have open root centers often feel pressured to do, to get things done. They usually have to-do lists and they never complete their to-do list. So, like they finish one list and then all of a sudden, oh, there's 100 more things I got to get done. So it really like can never, it never stops. And I speak from experience on this because I have an open root center, and it is so literal. Like as soon as I get something completed, I have another whole list of things that I need to get done. And this is a really hard center because that pressure is really real, especially if you are open and then you live around other people that have definition in that center. So just like we have defined and open centers, we have defined and open gates and channels in our chart. So when they're colored, they're defined, and if they're white, then that means that these centers are open in your chart. Defined centers, they are actually where we transmit out. These centers are carrying consistent energy that really doesn't change very often. It's defined and it's relatively stable and sustainable. It radiates out into the world. So when you have a defined center, this is what people perceive of you. This is how they see you. Even, I mean, especially on an energetic level. So open centers, they're the white ones. The white ones are the receivers. This is where we take in energy and information. It's where you amplify it. Not only do you take it in, but you amplify. Also where we come to know others, and where we can, with time, once we understand the dynamics that are going on in our lives, we can gain wisdom. And then it can also be where we get confused about what's ours and what's not. So when we're in a state of living what they call in the human design community not self, or out of alignment with our true self, then a lot of times we are not able to tell what is our energy or what we're taking in from somebody else. And so it's really, really important to learn about your open centers, your openness in your chart, to take a look at the dynamics of the people that you're around, the environment, how that has played out in your past and affected you. Because what happens is those energies have been conditioning agents throughout your life. Super important to take a look at that and to get an understanding of that so that you can actually start gaining the wisdom from what you learned from having this openness. So in human design, in the body graph, there's numbers that you see throughout all of those centers, and those are the gates, and there's 64 gates. Activated gates, again, we can have activated gates. They're going to be defined. Same kind of theme here, that they are where we're more consistent and sustainable. If it's not activated, if it's open, there's no circle around the gate, then that's where we're open and we are taking in from our environment and amplifying. There's channels. So the lines that you see that connect the centers together, that's what we call channels. There's 2 gates in each channel. And then we have what we call hanging gates. So hanging gates are actually where we come into relationship with our environment, with others, with planetary transits that are going on. When we have a hanging gate, we electromagnetically are kind of like always out there looking for the piece that connects and completes that channel. And this is an example, just the 4323. That's a defined gate because it's all colored in. So just to review, there's 9 energy centers. White ones are open, and those are our receivers. The colored ones, they're defined. Defined centers are our transmitters. 64 gates, which are pathways, and we call them channels. I'm sorry, pathways are the channels. And then we have 36 channels, 2 gates with each channel. So when we have a gate that is colored in black, what that means is that it's conscious, something that we are actually aware of, and to a certain degree have some control over how we work with that energy. When it's colored in red, it's unconscious. So when it's unconscious, this is something that we have maybe less control over. It's kind of like who we are, and it's really hard to change what's already unconscious, what's unconscious in us. But with time, we can learn how to work with that energy better and to embrace ourselves for who we are. And I believe firmly, I really, really do, that everything, especially when we're dealing with energy, there, and when even when I'm talking astrologically, when I'm talking about human design, on all levels, there are high expressions of things and there's low expressions of things. So we have the ability to take the high road and to try to really work on getting to that high type of energy and that high expression of energy. Sometimes you'll see channels that are red and black, um, in different variations, but that means that they're both conscious and unconscious. So when you actually get your report done, you'll see on the right hand side there will be planets with your numbers, and then on the left hand side, or on the right hand side, there'll be black, and then on the left hand side there'll be same thing, a line with the planets and the numbers in red. So the red again is your unconscious, the black is your conscious. When you have a channel that has got two different colors in it, the red and the black, that means that part of your design and part of your personality, somewhere or another, one of the planets, from each side is in that channel or in that certain gate. So I hope this was helpful as far as an introduction to some of the basics in human design, and that maybe when you get your chart run, you can kind of understand a little bit about what you're seeing on the chart. If you do want to learn more about your unique design, then I invite you to contact me at www.astroenergetics.org. I can also be reached at clarinda.man@astroenergetics.org. And you can find me on the Quantum Alignment System page, the specialist page. So www.quantumalignmentsystem, all one word, all together, .com. I'm on Facebook at Astro Energetic Healing, and then on Instagram at Astro Energetic Healing. So I really, really look forward to working with you, talking to you more, bringing some more information out here to people. I want to make it something that's understandable and that you can actually take some of these things and really start using them today. So peace and blessings to you guys all. Stay safe. Much love. Talk to you soon.